Alright, time to watch me some non-Halloween bullshit. Yes, sirree, Bob. It's November. That means I'm contractually not obligated to watch any Halloween movies. I am good to go. I done with that series. No problemo. Nothing more to say. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Get me a doctor now!
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face, the blackest eyes. The devil's eyes.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Rob Zombie's 2007 version of Halloween is best described with a word I've used a lot with this series: fine. As a Halloween film taken as a remake and understanding of the original, it's god-fucking awful. But as a reimagining, as a film that takes a pre-existing property and applies it to another filmmaker's style, it's a good enough one and done, I guess. It's no Devil's Rejects. It's not even really a 31. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it's probably the least rewatchable of Zombies films, purely because, it's not really a natural fit. The concept of showing Michael Myers' childhood is not entirely without merit. I can't say I really care to know about it, but at the same time, it could work. Unfortunately, it's a basic serial killer origin movie with a mix of laughable and effective murders, all of them given the shaky cam treatment, of course, followed by a borderline disconnected remake of the original film.
Oh, shit.
Now, I'm not going to beat up on Rob Zombie about this. I could. The dude's a millionaire who will never see this. But the fact is, he's just not a studio director. While this is definitely a studio movie under the ever-watchful eye of the Weinsteins. So I can see how that influence might have stifled what could have been a more interesting film. That said, holy shit, Rob. Of course Michael Myers' mom is going to be a stripper. Of course his stepdad is going to talk like a mentally ill sailor. Of course there's just going to be a thick veneer of redneck spread across every goddamn moment. And why the fuck do you think this is going to work, Rob? Of course Michael's impetus to break out of Smith's Grove is two rednecks graphically raping a patient in his room. I'm not sure what they were thinking there. You see this motherfucker? He's huge.
God damn, I wouldn't want to bum the freak out.
By the way, I should note I'm reviewing the unrated version. The theatrical version actually has a far better breakout by Myers and features both Bill Moseley and a distinct lack of rape. So bad form, Rob. Bad form. Once we transition into the modern day, there are some more interesting decisions, like Loomis becoming a true crime author and kind of setting up his character arc in the sequel, even though Rob had no plans for that at the time. I'm not sure how intentional this was, but Loomis essentially breaking up with Michael so he could move on, only for us to cut immediately to him promoting his new book on Michael, is pretty good stuff. Of course, Danny Trejo's death is notable for being one of the best kills in the film, for the simple fact that it's probably the best showing of how evil Michael really is, something we really don't get with the Loomis stuff. The teen girl dialogue, meanwhile, is a less thrilling experience. Their look is fun, acting is really solid once you get past the dialogue. The LA as Illinois locations look closer to the real thing, and I don't know, I guess I do really like the final at the time ending, how she just caps his ass. That's pretty dope. Honestly, past those things, it's just a lot of retreading with an extra layer of grime. Probably my biggest gripe is how faithful the film attempts to be. It just feels like an hour of slamming all the old beats with a shorter runtime, which big ol' no thank you right there. I don't need that shit. I do really like most of the kills, all said and done. That's a strong. I like a fair amount of the kills. There are moments like the deaths of Laurie's adoptive parents that feel just cruel for cruel's sake, but if you're trying to get across a serial killer built out of a heady combo of pure evil and stripper mom, then I guess that's kind of par for the course. I like Ronnie's chilling demise. The boyfriend's seizing after getting hit with the bat is just a Texas Chainsaw-inspired chef's kiss. The Mean Joe Grizzly scene is borderline perfection.
I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch.
And, I don't know, I like the mask all right. That's pretty good. Zombie has said that he wasn't super comfortable shooting 239:1, and while the cinematography he pulls off with DP Phil Parmet is certainly nothing to write home about, the origin sequences have a moody look that could just use some more thoughtful composition. It's mostly just shaky cam and extreme close-ups, and that shit gets real boring real fast. Like, motherfuckers, rent a dolly, set that shit down, and just you know, enjoy, have a good time, throw some shit in the foreground, like, make a fucking composition, come on. Acting-wise, I know peeps give Sherry Moon Zombie shit all the time, but honestly, I rarely have any issues with her. Here, she's fine, hampered only by the fact that she's embodying a really on-the-nose character. Her emotional decline is presented in a way that's actually a little heartbreaking, again only stifled by those little zombieisms. Just changing her death from a gunshot to something more mundane would have really helped, although then we wouldn't get the impetus for baby Lori crying in the background to aid that scene's transition to the present day. But, you know, you gotta make sacrifices, guys. Tyler Mane as adult Michael Myers is honestly pretty great, and though I prefer a more sleek, not giant as fuck Myers, his movements are brutal but measured in a way that I really appreciate. And he's helped by that truly baller mask, really. We also get a bunch of genre cameos like Richard Lynch, Danny Trejo, that little fuck from Spy Kids, Sybil Danning, Udo Kier, Bill Moseley in the theatrical cut, Sid Haig, Ken fucking Faree, and a whole host of other definitely not distracting stunt castings. Then there's Danielle Harris returning to the franchise, proving her acting chops, and giving a lot of Halloween fans some very confusing feelings. In the case of Dag Faerch, I've still never heard his name said out loud. Whatever, the kid. He works really well sometimes, but also there's a reason we rarely get too deep into the childhood of psychopaths. As Dr. Wolfula said in his review, kids are only scary if you have them. Anyway, as I said, Halloween's fine, but much like the film itself, that's not much of a hot take. Most people agree that it's a good horror movie and just not much of a Halloween movie. The real question is, what about the sequel? All right, Halloween 2.
I can't fucking read that.
Once again, we abandon the wider aspect ratio, but for the first time, I'm pretty content with that. Rob Zombie is making something different with Halloween 2, and honestly, the further he got from aping Carpenter, the better.
Bitch, I will crawl over there and I will skull fuck the shit out of you.
Oh, I'll get the crutches for you.
Okay, well maybe dial it back like a little every so often, but still. Much like with Halloween 6, there are two different cuts here. I'm going with Rob Zombie's director's cut because, well, it's his director's cut. Not that that helped too much last time. I'd seen the film in theaters, and, well, I hated it. However, that was 19-year-old Michael. 31-year-old Michael, in addition to being fatter and having significantly more back pain, is a lot more open to experimental bullshit. So how does Rob Zombie's endlessly contentious sequel hold up? Well, right off the bat, we get like Dr. Stretch over here, some gory close-ups of Laurie's battered body, and a hospital sequence that just won't quit. Despite opening with a quote that makes me suspect Zombie thinks his audience is made of dumb fucks, what we're given to start with is legitimately great horror movie bullshit. Much like the first film, camera work isn't the most dynamic or gorgeous, but it's sufficiently dark and gritty enough to cover up for its flaws. And being shot in 16mm really helps the off-kilter tone throughout. And you know, I'll take that over bland Hollywood gloss any day. Sometimes it even gets into expressionism with lots of nods to the old black and white horror films that Zombie grew up with, and music video techniques he was well acquainted with as well. And you know, as over-the-top disgusting as the meat wagon dialogue is, I do love this bit.
You're like, cow! Cow!
Of course, as has been discussed at length, the hospital sequence is all a dream, kinda robbing it of any real impact. I get that it's meant to show the psychological impact of Myers on Laurie, but come on. To have your best slasher sequence in this slasher movie being a dream is pretty damn cheap, no matter how quality it is. I don't care how many future Oscar winners you kill. Fact is, though, Zombie's not really making much of a slasher movie here, and straight up, you could cut out the hospital sequence and probably be all the better for it. The pacing specifically would thank you. What we're given post-dream sequence is honestly, it's a pretty okay examination of PTSD. I was shocked. Obviously not something new to the franchise, but certainly a new variation.
So basically, I just have to wait until my brain heals.
As unlikable as she may be, Laurie does feel convincing. If anything, that unlikability actually helps Scout Taylor Compton craft a much better, fully realized character than in her first appearance. She doesn't always work. This music video-esque sequence in particular is kinda awful with the sound on, but in general, I felt like I was watching a really scarred individual. This does mean that we don't really have a fully likable protagonist, but who gives a shit?
Look,
okay, so...
Well, I'm not going in there until you go get me a cup of PG Tips with a splash of milk, and I want it sizzling hot.
Our newer, more arrogant Loomis is another interesting touch. I'm not too sure how I feel about him. On the one hand, Malcolm McDowell is way too great at playing a total fuckhead to not enjoy his work a little bit, and this sequence with Weird Al is just mwah. It also shows a definite point of view. Zombie, despite some of his more, exploitative inclinations, see the rape scene in the first movie, he does not seem to like the exploitation of victims or the mentally ill, and Loomis is the living embodiment of that.
When I want your opinion, I'll beat it out of you.
I can't say that Rob Zombie really knows how to get this all across, but you gotta mulligan. Seeing him just eviscerated by Linda's dad at the bookstore is just, that's good shit. The two definitive standouts acting-wise have to be Danielle Harris and Brad Dourif. Annie and Lee Brackett are just well-realized, powerfully performed characters. Sometimes the dialogue gets the better of them, with Annie specifically coming off as a bit too much of a, bitch early on.
Great. Pastry for breakfast. Seriously, 500 calories of sugar and shit.
I know it.
But they get their damaged characters across just about perfectly. Brackett mourning the loss of his daughter is still tough to watch, made all the more so by the fact that her being brought back only to be killed off in such a horrific manner feels like the unfair loss that it is. Using archive footage of Danielle Harris is a bit of a cheat, but it's also utterly heartbreaking. And after so many movies that had me stone-faced all the way through, man, a little emotion goes a long way.
Would you please convince Miss Tuculio for Schoolio that our costume idea is totally rad?
Dude, suck it up, ho. We got a fucking theme going on. Don't screw it up.
I really can only take so much of Zombie's "to Coolio for Schoolio" dialogue. I obviously enjoy the word fuck and all of the oft-bleeped brethren that it has, but Jesus Christ, man, just it gets to be a bit much sometimes. And you know what? At first I had a note about that for this review, about the dialogue just being way too much and just ruining scenes, but it actually isn't as bad here as I remember. There's a lot of it early on during our intro to Laurie's new friends, but after a while, it does feel like Zombie chills out a bit. Swinging back to positives, though, I really appreciated this time how audacious Zombie is with this film. No doubt because he seems to not give a single solitary fuck. I feel like a lot of people don't like that this is so clearly a Rob Zombie joint, but honestly, it's pretty cool after watching so much of the same bland bullshit to see a filmmaker really go for broke and do something completely different. I mean, outside of the PTSD angle, of course. And I guess Laurie's psychic connection to Michael is also pretty similar to Jamie's in parts 4 and 5. But that film doesn't have vegan Jamie tasting the dog Michael's concurrently eating while she's trying to enjoy a slice of pizza. Also, hot take, it's just done better here. Ultimately, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is undoubtedly a mess, thanks in large part to studio interference and Rob Zombie just not wanting to do it in the first place, but it's a chunky mixture of great ideas done well, great ideas done poorly, and bad ideas done just as poorly. I like the look, the exploration of PTSD, and even the choppily edited violence. It's a film that, at the very least, has a point of view and an idea to get across, with an indie look and fuck you demeanor that helped me swallow the more unfortunate moments. It doesn't quite work. A noble, cruel effort, no doubt, and definitely one I did not give a fair shake back in the day. And this is going to be the big what the fuck moment of this whole review series. It's the best Halloween sequel since Season of the Witch. go watch a movie, you know?
What is that?
That's whatever you think it is what that is.
Okay. That's done. And I guess that's it. Cool. I guess all I have left to do is talk about the 2018 movie and kills, and we're good. It's really drafty in here.